And okay, sometimes it's slog, and I mean, and that's important as well to know. Sometimes because people go when I want to be a writer, and I think, oh, writing. Imagine writing getting paid for it. That would be the best job in the world. But you've got to know that some days it's really boring, and this scene is driving me nuts. If I would, and the opposite is true. If I don't get out of this room soon, I feel like I'll never get out of this scene. And you've just got to go through that. You've got to work through that. Sometimes it's slog, and it's not, and because you feel it's counterintuitive. You feel, it should be interesting. If it's not interesting to me, how is it going to be interesting to an audience or a readership? But actually, sometimes it is just slog. And I look back over things I've written, and the things that I thought I really enjoyed writing that, I said I hated writing that bit, and you generally speaking can't tell the difference.
I mean, the thing that people really need to understand who haven't written before is that if you want to write a novel, you say to yourself, I'm going to spend maybe 2 years, quite a lot of time, every day, for half an hour, a couple of hours, for the next 24 months, even Christmas Day if possible, if I can get away from the tree, doing this. And at the end of it, you'll have 60 or 80,000 words. I mean, it is a lot of words to make work and to get into line and to get balanced and to get polished and so forth. Why wouldn't it take a long time?
Usually I get the idea for a new book about 3/4 of the way through writing, or somewhere in the middle of writing the previous one. And you've come to a bit of, and I guess this is a bit like writer's block, you come to a bit of a slump in the middle, 40 or 50,000 words in, where you think this is the worst thing anyone's ever written. What were you thinking of? No one's going to want to read it. And no wonder, because you don't want to write it anymore. And it's a bit like you've left one shore behind. You can't see that one. You can't see the shore you're getting to. So there's a long middle section. And usually during that time, your subconscious rebels and thinks of a new idea for a new book. And the attraction of the new idea and the new book is that there won't be this problem in the new book. When you're writing the new book, it's just going to go swimmingly. It's going to be wonderful. The middle will be just as enjoyable to write as the beginning and the end, and everything will be fine if only you could get yourself out of this one. And so that's when you think of the new idea, and actually that's morale boosting, because it makes you think, well, I'm a creative person and I have an idea, and obviously this one is dead in the water, but I'll just grind it out anyway, because when I get to the next one, that'll be the great thing. Writer's block is something that you're better off not saying. I think it's good to be in denial about things, and in some things, and denial gets a bad rap, and by naming a thing, you may conjure it into being. It's hard sometimes to get things moving, and you can hit little gaps in the road. Generally speaking, if you've written the day before, going back over what you've done is a good morale boosting way of keeping yourself going, because there's always something you'll make better. And often you'll have thought that what you did yesterday was terrible, and then you read it back and you think it's not so bad actually. It's just as good as the rest of the stuff, provided the rest of the stuff is okay. It's about confidence, and not confidence as in walking around whistling and thinking you're great, but a certain sense that you can do this, that you're up to the challenge, and it infiltrates all aspects of your life when you're in the middle of a piece of work. Don't drink too much, because then your head won't be right for much of the day, because you will be confused. Don't stay out too late and lead a rather dull life, actually. I find I don't have great concentration, and I'm very easily distracted. And if I go to the theatre in the middle of the week, I'm like the rustic character in a restoration play. My head is completely turned by all the fine ladies and the excitement and the bright lights, and it takes me a couple of days to recover, and I can't concentrate on it. So I have I have to stay at home and not do very much and, you know, live a rather dull life. And that's one way to get through whatever that thing is that I won't mention. Yeah.
My friend Robert McLean Wilson, a northerner, always would say in relation to writer's block, writer's block? Have you ever heard of someone with plumber's block or bricklayer's block? His attitude was, there's no such thing. Get over yourself. Sometimes it's easy to write. Sometimes it isn't easy to write. If you're writing simply and purely and chronologically, it's easier than if you're writing complex, lyrical, poetic material. You make the easier the tasks you set yourself, the easier it is to write. If you are finding it difficult to write, you just make yourself write. You may feel as you write is rubbish. And it may be rubbish, but it's your rubbish. And it can be rewritten, it can be recalibrated, it can be polished and buffed at a later stage. However, often, invariably, what you find is that what you write when you're feeling disgruntled and disconsolate and off colour is not nearly as bad as you thought it was. Sometimes it is even okay. Occasionally it is even good. But your insight is not working because of your disgruntlement. So you're not judging it properly. And you have to remember when you're not feeling like doing it that you have to do it. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. The chances are it'll probably be more likely to be good than bad. And that when you look at it later, you will be pleasantly surprised. But even if you are not pleasantly surprised, you can just, there will always be something there to work with and you can just rejig it.
The problem with writing a book when you get stuck, and people often get stuck in the beginning, is that you'll never finish the book. I mean, I know somebody who's written 3 chapters and is still working on those 3 chapters 10 years later. Now, in those 10 years, I believe he could have written probably 9 cracking books, but he is just fixated on these chapters. So I would say to you, if that is what's happening to you, put it aside and move on. And also, again, by the time you get to the end of the book, you know your characters, you know your story, it's flying. You'll probably go back and change those chapters completely. So don't get too bogged down at the beginning. And when you finish the book, you can go back and write a cracking first chapter. They're important, but don't get bogged down. Move along, keep the book moving, keep going, and then come back to it. You can always come back to it. It's very important to remember that. If something's not working, try and make it work and then move on. Don't get fixated on it.